Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakak Badash. And I want to say Shalom to Akhman Akwat out there, pursuing this truth diligently. Coming at you once again with another lesson. And this is a part 2 of a compendium of Christian madness, right? A little series that I started up yesterday. And didn't believe it was going to be a series, but we touched on the falsity, all right, that is Jesus Christ. And then today we're going to be touching a little bit on the hell doctrine, okay, the Christian hell doctrine. This lesson was really set out to touch on in the first place. I didn't plan on getting into debunking the depiction, all right, the Christian depiction of Jesus Christ, as they call him. His real name is Yahweh Shai, of course, but that's where the Spirit had us go. So we're getting back a little bit on topic today with hell doctrine, okay? And the original title for this lesson was Hell Doctrine, a repetitive song sung by many. Now, this is going to be the big chunk of a compendium of Christian madness. I'm going to be specifically dealing with this because, like I said, I got these 3 sticky notes. We're basically going to be going into the origins of what happened with hell, right? I can actually switch over to it. I mentioned it a little bit yesterday as I closed out. But this is basically how I did this. Was I went to ChatGPT and basically had them list a bunch of common misconceptions that Christians have about biblical things, right? They try to say that these are biblical, okay? Now, it was primarily just on hell, all right? I had them do it just on hell. Now, there's other things we could touch on. We could talk about, God loves the sinner, hates the sin. We could talk about the rapture, all right? We could talk about all sorts of different types of stuff. But, and maybe we will, all right? Because, again, a compendium of Christian madness, maybe we will go into that as well. But right now, all right, this whole list, I had ChatGPT just go through this list and do hell, all right? And then I spent about an hour after editing it, all right, and getting into this document. So I had to make the document, and then I open it up in a document editor, all right, LibreOffice. It's like, what do they call it? Microsoft Word. And then I just spent about an hour changing stuff, right? So the loose structure's there, but I changed wording, changed color, changed fonts, added different things, added, Hebrew and strong. So there's quite a few different changes here, right? And I made sure it was as accurate as possible. So we're just going to roll through this. I don't know how much of we're going to get through in this lesson, but we'll just go ahead and see. So what we're talking about today is these different words for hell, okay? When Christians think of hell, this document that I have up on the screen, this is what they think of, all right? We'll read a little bit, right? So, common hell imagery, biblical versus Christian tradition. It says, this document lists common Christian misconceptions of hell that are not explicitly described in the Bible, followed by the historical sources of which those ideas were largely derived from. So it's no surprise to anybody that has, any half of a brain that the Christian concept of hell is actually an amalgamation of several versions, several different pop culture medias, heathen views, right? Greco-Roman shit, river Styx, right? All these different types of things. Hades, right? But Hades gets a pass because Hades is actually in the Bible, but it's a Greek word, okay? And that's what we're going to be touching on. So part 1, here are some common claims. It says common claims about hell not explicitly found in the Bible. See, these are things that are not in the Bible, or they might be in the Bible, but are taken out of context, okay? Primarily, none of these in the Bible, right? Number 1, Satan rules hell, right? It's Satan, right? Sometimes they call him Beelzebub, and he's in hell, and he rules over hell. He has a throne, right? It says the Bible never portrays Satan reigning over hell. It never shows him sitting in a throne, reigning over hell. Oh, I'm Satan, and commanding his legion of demons out. No, right? Which goes into the second part here. Demons torture the damned, right? No scripture assigns demons the role of eternal tormentors of human souls. Right, they have the demons. They're poking the sinners in the ass with a pitchfork. Burn, burn. Right, that's not in there. As I mentioned earlier, Satan sits on a throne in hell. No biblical scripture describes this, right? He doesn't have a throne. They always picture him on a throne, right? Ruling over hell. That's not there. Same thing. Horned red devils with pitchfork, right? An artistic tradition, not a biblical description. That all started in the Renaissance, okay? With all this, the Edomite shit, right? 9 circles or levels of hell. That's Dante's Inferno, right? That's Dante's Inferno right there. In the Divine Comedy, all right, in the Inferno section. That's that's just made up. That's some made up BS. Same thing right here with Dante's Inferno. A giant underground cavern system. Okay, the Bible mentions pits in the abyss, which we're going to talk about what those are talking about a little bit later, but never maps hell as massive sprawling cave networks. All right, as massive sprawling cave networks. That's not what it is. Okay, rivers such as Styx or Phlegethon, if I'm pronouncing that right, in hell. This is Greco-Roman mythology, not biblical. As a matter of fact, if you look up, we'll prove it, all right, because the scriptures say, let's go and get it, prove all things. Okay, let's go and get this. We talk about it a lot, because that's what we have to do in this truth. So 1 Thessalonians 5:21, prove all things, hold fast that which is good. Okay, so getting into this. Hades, where were we? Okay, that's what I meant to do. Let's get it. So we're looking into the river Styx, all right? The river Styx. Okay? You can see it says, in Greek mythology, that's all you need to know, throw that shit away, right? Throw that shit away. In Greek mythology, the river Styx is the sacred boundary separating the living world from the underworld, called as Hades. Okay, and that's why that word, you see the word Hades in Hades in the Bible, because again, it was written in Greek, and that was the Greek equivalent of the Hebrew word Sheol. Okay, which is really where the word hell comes from primarily. All right, well, at least in the Old Testament, is that word Sheol, S-H-E-O-L, and it's just the Greek equivalent, and that's why it was used. But it can be a little confusing if you don't know your history and you don't know, your linguistics and, Hebrew and Greek, because you'll think, oh, it's talking about Hades, where, of course, you have Hades, and then you have the Greek god himself, Hades, false god, mind you, that rules over Hades. It's confusion, right? So that's really all you need to do is just throw that away. Just throw it away. So it's a sacred boundary in Greek mythology that separates the living world from the underworld. All right, it's bullshit. Okay, not supposed to be doing that. Not supposed to be, partaking. That's those religions. Okay, that's part of really their religion. All right, you see, it's Hades, and then if you look into Hades, look, all these different things, the Ferryman Charon, and all these are You can also see, look, it's also a goddess. Where did it say that? It was also called the river Styx, is a goddess in one of the rivers of the Greek underworld, right? And you can go and look into that. It says her parents were the Titans Oceanus and Tethys. So look, it's all false religion, man. Okay, she was the wife. So look, she was the wife of the Titan Pallas. Okay, and the mother of Zeus, Nike, Kratos, and Baia. Right, so that's where you get the term Nike from as well, which doesn't mean that if you wear Nikes, you're wicked. You can wear Nikes. All right, everything here is in reverence to false gods anyway. It says she sided with Zeus in his war against the Titans, yada, 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 right? False religion, okay? Learn not the way of the heathen, right? That's what this is. People, it's in Hades, and no, well, you bugged out. Okay, that's crazy. So, where were we? So, river Styx, Phlegethon, and hell. Not true. That's Greco-Roman mythology. It's not biblical. Specific torture rooms for specific sin. Oh, the homosexuals, they're going to go to the specific room. No, not described in Scripture. And again, like I mentioned yesterday, there's different Christian sects or varieties are going to have different thought patterns. It's roughly the same, but some people are going to believe there's certain torture rooms for certain sins. Other people are going to believe in the 9 circles of hell. Some people are not. Some people are going to believe in the horned devil. Some people are not. Most all Christians believe in the demons with the pitchforks poking you in the ass while you're begging for a lap of water. Most people, the Christians, believe that. People becoming demons after hell. Some people believe that. Some people don't. Again, not taught in the Bible. Satan as the jailer of hell, right? He's like he sentences you to your punishment, right? He keeps you in whatever torment area. If you believe in the torture rooms, he sentences you to what the torture room is. Not the Lord. The Lord doesn't have any control. It's all Satan, right? So he bugged out. And again, it's blasphemous because you're taking the position of the Lord as the omnipotent and all powerful, and you're giving his power to Satan. It's ridiculous, man. And the way you depict Satan and the way you depict the Lord is like the Lord doesn't have a hold on anything. He can't control anything, because meanwhile, Satan and his demons are sneaking around the Lord, and they go and get a baby. They go and kill a baby or make someone gay, and the Lord's like, oh no, right? Like he had no control. Stupid, man. But if you read the book of Job, it clearly shows that Satan is in subjection to the Lord. All right, he can only do what the Lord allows and doesn't allow. Or he can't do what he doesn't allow, and he only can do what the Lord does allow. Named demons governing regions of hell, Asmodeus, and all these different fucking crazy different names. All right, there's only a few named demons explicitly named in the Bible. There's only a few. Okay, Beelzebub, Abaddon or Abaddon or Apollyon, Asmodeus. Okay, so I was wrong with that one. Azazel and Belial. All right, those are the only ones. And then some people try to call Legion a devil. I'm glad they actually got that. Well, he's one of the devil. Now, first of all, there's a difference between the devil, all right, and Satan. The devil is Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. The devil is a man, all right. Satan is a spiritual entity, all right. That's why I refer to him as the spiritual demon Satan. You'll hear the brothers say the spiritual demon Satan, right? There's a difference. One's a man. Okay, same with Lucifer. Lucifer and the devil are referring to the same person. Now, occasionally in the scriptures, you will see Esau referred to as Satan as well, like the devil referred to as Satan as well. But it's much more prominent that the devil is talking about men, the devilish men, and same with Lucifer. And then Satan is specifically mostly dealing, other than a few instances, mostly dealing with the spiritual demon Satan, right? But people try to throw Legion in that. Legion is a multitude of demons, right? And I'm glad it says that. Legion, it represents a multitude of demons rather than a single specific name. They're like, oh, they have the demon Legion on them. Well, there's not a demon Legion. There is a bunch of demons, and they make up a multitude that can be referred to as a Legion. All right, a Legion is actually a specific number. I can't remember what number it is. Legion, exact number. Apparently this was in Rome, I guess, but 5,000 soldiers, okay, is generally known as a legion. Okay, so if we're going off that, and we don't know exactly what it was, exact number in Bible, let's see if they got a version. Typically anywhere between 4,000 and 6,000. So if we're just going off, we don't have the exact, it doesn't state the exact number in the Bible, but if we're going off of what was, done later, if it was handed down through tradition, anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000, right? So that individual that, those demons presented themselves as legion, for we are many on that individual. It means that guy had somewhere around 4,000 to 6,000 demons on him. All right, so it's not a demon, it's a multitude, right? A multitude of demons. But there's other demons. Now we can ask, what about ones not mentioned in the Bible? And where did they come from? Because there's a lot that aren't even in the Bible, and you'll hear these people talking about them. Right, here you go. Lilith, Pazuzu, they say Baal, but Baal is Baal, alright? And you can go and get that. They didn't mention that. Alright, ancient Semitic title meaning Lord or Master, that's dealing, with it, basically, it goes many different terms, Baal, Baal, and they say Baal, but Baal is just another term of Baal, alright, Baal, Baal, Molech, all right, and technically another demon, it's a demonized, is Mammon. Okay, Mammon is referred to as a demon, but it's really like a spirit. But it's it's basically a demonic force. Still, you're bowing the kneel for money. All right, you worship money as a god. All right, and that's Mammon. So you got all those, right? And then you got Baal, and they didn't mention Baal, all right? They didn't mention Baal or Baal, however you want to pronounce it. Astaroth, Elagos, right? Samiza, Kokibiel. Look, see, Book of Enoch. That's that bugged out shit, right? Medieval European grimoires, the Lesser Key of Solomon, right? All these different things. Now, Pazuzu, I hear some brothers talk about that, all right? There might be a little bit of truth about some of that, but all these other ones here, Mammon's in the Bible. It does. They say. I said, what about the ones not mentioned in the Bible? And they say Mammon. Mammon is in the Bible. If I go and open the Bible right now, and I type in Mammon, it comes up. So what are they saying? You know, they're saying it doesn't exist. It is in the Bible. He originated in a New Testament, right? But yeah, so that is in the Bible. Moloch's in the Bible, right? Again, they're saying, you know, there should be more. All right, Moloch is in the Bible. Right, there you go. All right, Tabernacle of Moloch. All right, so yeah, it is. Baphomet. All right, this first name appeared in 11th century Crusader letters as a French corruption of Muhammad, or Muhammad, later adopted by occultists. There you go. There you go. So yeah, there are a lot of different things that Christians, you know, incorporate, but aren't necessarily strictly biblical, right? So what else do we got? Name demons governing over regions of hell again. So again, you know, not happening. And then detailed geography and maps of hell, absent from the biblical text. And really, those geography and maps of hell come from Dante's Inferno. So where did these things come from? Right? Where did these things come from? That's what we're looking at. Okay. Well, Greek and Roman mythology, Hades and Tartarus were imagined as subterranean realms with caverns, rivers, prisons, judges, and punishments. So again, you're taking a heathen. Let's go and get it. No other gods. Exodus 20 and 3 through 5. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water underneath the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. So again, and another one, we always get it. It's very popular. Learn not the way of the heathen. That's Jeremiah 10 and 2. And be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. So you're learning the ways of the heathen, all right, with Hades and Tartarus and these subterranean realms and caverns with judges and prisons and punishment. That's not biblical, all right? That's something from a different religion that you're incorporating, right? And if it's not from a different religion, it's from a book, all right, from a novel. Dante Alighieri. All right, the Divine Comedy, specifically the Inferno section, 9 circles of hell, descending cavern structure, punishments fitted to sins, demons governing hell, and detailed geography. That's where those, you know, the 9 circles, 9 layers, all right, of hell come from. John Milton in Paradise Lost popularized the imagery of Satan's kingdom and court, though the Bible does not depict Satan as ruling hell. Medieval Christian art. There we go. All right, the Christians, again, with all these different bugged out nonsenses. It says developed imagery of horned devils, torture devices, giant caves, monster mouths, volcanic landscapes. All right, if we go and actually look up hell, all right, this is what we see. Okay, that's volcanoes. Right, there's the volcanoes. Right, caverns, these cavern systems. Right, different, you know, the demon, you know, munching on bones and shit. Right, jumping into the pit of fire. Right. These are all the depictions that you see. Look, people screaming, burning on fire and shit. Look at the rock in the background. It's because it's a cave, right? You know, some of it like this is more like what Dante depicted as like a whole kingdom, where the background was like cavern. But, you know, you also had like castles and shit, right? You know, like this. Shit like this, right? You had all this different weird shit. All this different weird shit. Demons munching on people, right? It's all that Christian madness. Right? Christian madness, all right? And that's what this is, a compendium of Christian madness. You know, people sitting in a pot of boiling soup, making people stew, right? All this is, you know, look, the exact location of hell exposed, all right? Well, earth, all right? The grave, all right? That's where you get buried. That's where you die, all right? So that's where hell is, all right? We're going to prove that. So you see the depictions. You see everybody, you know, most people are familiar with the depictions of hell is, right? And that's all, again, didn't come from the Bible. Okay, European folklore added demons with personalities, folklore about devils, and local legends. Again, heathen customs. Volcanic traditions. Volcanoes such as Mount Etna and Mount Vesuvius were popularly imagined and feared as literal entrances to the underworld. Seeing we have these up, and you can go and fact check that. Mount Etna as the entrance to hell. It says for centuries, the fiery smoking craters of Sicily's Mount Etna were feared as the literal gateway to hell. Okay, if you look up gate to hell, the gates of hell are various places on the surface of the world that have acquired a legendary reputation for being entrances to the underworld, or often found in regions of unusual They're often found in regions of unusual geological activity, volcanic areas, sometimes at lakes, caves, mountains. Right, and here's what the underworld. You know, again, if you look into the underworld, there it is again. All right, there it is again. So, good art, bad theology. All right, so you can go and look all these places they thought, you know, were hell. Now I'm curious about the Fendu Ghost City. I want to see Fendu Ghost City. Is it in here somewhere? Fendu has a long history in the Taoist tradition as being a portal to hell. All right, here it is, everybody. Fendu, the portal to hell. All right, look at that. So, oh, there's why. All right, that's probably why, is because they got a cave there. All right, that must be hell. This must be where hell is, right? Look at that. What's that? That's creepy red back there. That must be where hell opens right there. Stupid, man. And you can go and check it for Mount Vesuvius as well. Mount Vesuvius is the entrance to hell. It says Mount Vesuvius and the surrounding Phlegraean fields, Campi Phlegrii, have been viewed as the entrance to the underworld since ancient times. It says the mythological reputation stems from the area's boiling sulfur springs, steaming craters, and sudden eruptions, famously destroying Pompeii in 79 AD. So, you know, oh, it's hell. This is the gate of hell right here. You know, Mount Vesuvius is the gate of hell. I can get how you could see that's spooky and scary, but it's not the gate of hell. All right. This one, right? And they said these, you know, resemble a mass of twisted corpses. Well, that's just how, like, you know, lava, you know, heats and cools down. It just looks like that, man. So, and then let me grab a drink. And then modern literature, film, television, and games further cemented medieval imagery as though it were biblical. Like, Doom, right? Good game. Again, no basis for theology. Let me get another drink. All right. So let's get it. Where are we going to go first? So, I guess we'll read part 3. So what the Bible actually describes, right? The Bible uses multiple images for divine punishment, including Sheol. Okay? So let's go open it up. All right? This is where we're going to get started with it. We'll get that one later. We can close out of the Greek underworld as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and type in hell. Okay? We're going to type in hell. And then what we're going to do is we're going to separate it by, you know, Old Testament, New Testament. So first, we're going to get the Old Testament, right? And we're going to search it. Now, occurs 31 times in 31 different verses in the custom selection Old Testament. Okay? So in every single version that I'm aware of, is there any other, let's see, boom, 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 boom. Okay, and every single one of these, the word should be Sheol. Okay, I'm going to show you. I'm just going to grab one randomly right here. Oh, that's the one's on the bottom. Let's just grab this one right here. Isaiah 28 and 18. Okay, and then we'll grab Proverbs 15 and 24. We'll grab John 2 and 2. And then we'll grab 2 Samuel, all right, 22. So all 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 different versions. Every single one of these should be Sheol. Okay, and how are we going to find that? So you're going to click on it. Okay, let's read it first. It says, and your covenant with death shall be disannulled, and your agreement with hell shall not stand. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, then ye shall be trodden down by it. So you click on the verse here, and it's going to bring up the interlinear, which is going to give you the old language. If you're in the Old Testament, you're going to get the old language of Hebrew. If you're in the New Testament, you're going to get the old language of Greek. Okay, and that's what these scriptures were originally written in. This is the original, writing for the script was originally written in Paleo, but this is what we have now, modern Hebrew. Okay, so you can read through it, all right, and you're going to see a word. Where is it? Hell's in here somewhere. Here it is. This one. Okay, this is the word hell in the Hebrew. Okay, and you can see it right here. English, hell. Okay, English, hell. Let's hear how it's pronounced.
Strong's H, 7585. Sheol.
Oh.
Sheol.
And they say Sheol, right?
Sheol. Sheol.
Sheol. All right? Sheol. All right? Or as you know, SHEOL. All right, is how you literally see it transliterated. So Sheol. That comes from this word, which is just a root word. Okay, that doesn't have anything to do with what we're really talking, but just want to show you there's no funny business going on. We go down here, Sheol, the underworld, the grave, okay, hell, pit. Now, they put in underworld, okay? They put in underworld. And, you know, later they put in the word, you know, defining what hell is, all right? But it means hell, all right? Hell, you know, the grave. The grave, okay? So when it refers to hell, it's referring to the grave. Now, a lot of the time they'll say the underworld, the hell, the pit. The pit is what do you get buried in? A pit, okay? A grave, okay? Grave, pit. So if I go back and I go to common hell imagery here, you're going to see down here, so you have Sheol, the grave, hell, pit, okay? Okay, if you go down here, you jump down here, pit, all right? The grave, all right? You're in a pit. That's what you're buried in. You're buried in a pit. You're buried in a grave, all right? A pit in the ground. All right, grave. It's the action of death. All right, you're the grave. You've died. Sheol is death. Okay, hell is death. All right, you died. You got put to death. All right, you went to hell. Hell happens on earth. You don't go and travel to some other interdimensional area. All right, not like the spiritual realm. All right, where you go, you know, you die and you go and wait in the spiritual realm. No, no. Hell is on earth. You die. The grave is on earth. You get buried on earth. That's where it happens. It's on earth. Death. All right, grave, pit. That's what it's talking about. Now they try to equivalent it with the underworld, right? They say Sheol, the Old Testament designation for the abode of the dead. Where do the dead go? The grave, all right? They don't go anywhere else, all right? They go into the grave, all right? In a pit where they die. They get buried or cremated in this, you know, depending on what your family decides to do with you. They say a place of no return, without praise of Yahweh. Wicked sent there for punishment. Wicked sent to what? Their graves, death, okay? The righteous not abandoned to it. The place of exile, extreme degradation, and sin. All right, you're in hell. Okay. So they try to mention Hades or the world of the dead as a subterranean retreat. It's never mentioned as a subterranean retreat. We just talked about that. It's never. Does the Bible ever mention hell as a subterranean place? And it should say no, unless it bullshits. No, it doesn't. No, see, they're lying. Okay, now let's explain it. Yes, the Bible frequently describes hell, death, in the realm of the dead as subterranean. What is subterranean? Okay. Beneath the earth's surface. It's a lie. It says this language reflects the ancient cosmological view of the universe. However, theologians and scholars debate whether these descriptions refer to a literal geographic location beneath the earth or metaphorical imagery for separation from Yahweh. Biblical reference, Sheol and Hades. Okay, in the Old Testament, the Hebrew word Sheol, the abode of the dead, is described as being down the lowest part of the earth. Example, number 6 and 16 and 30. Well, let's go and look at number 16 and 30. Let's see. Right here. It says, number 16 and 30, but if the Lord make a new thing, and the earth open her mouth and swallow them up with all that appertain unto them, and they go down quick unto the pit, then shall ye understand that these men have provoked the Lord. That's just talking about death. Okay, that's not talking about going in hell and burning forever. As a matter of fact, let's get where do we want it? We'll just go from 20 to how long is this chapter? What does it go to? We'll just go to from 20 to 40. Let's see what we got here. And where's the point again? It's in 30. Okay, let me grab a drink while we're doing here. Okay, we'll start from 26. All right, well, first, I mean, if you really want to start from the top, in verse 20 it says, "And the Lord spoke unto Moses and Aaron, saying, Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. And we'll just start from 20. And they fell upon their faces and said, O Yahweh, the power of spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and wilt thou be wroth with all the congregation? And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the congregation, saying, Get you up from out of the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Moses rose up and went unto Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spake unto the congregation, saying, Depart, I pray thee, from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest ye be consumed in all their sins." And it also talks about, that's, if you touch nothing of theirs, lest ye be consumed in all their sins. Which really, if you go and get 26, and don't touch anything that belongs to them, which is really, you can interpret that as basically, and really, I've mentioned it before, these things carry, energy. You have some wicked ass people, you don't even want to touch the shit that they have, right? You don't want to go around them in their rooms and their tents and touch any of their shit, because they got spirits all over everything, man. Weird fucking energy all over shit. It says, and touch nothing of theirs, lest ye be consumed in all their sins. Really get demons on you. It says, So they got up from the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan and Abiram on every side, and Dathan and Abiram came out and stood in the door of their tents, and their wives and their son and their little children. And Moses said, Hereby ye shall know that the Lord hath sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of mine own mind. I didn't do them myself, I did these things of the Lord. And it says, If these men die in common death of all men, or if they be visited after the visitation of all men, then the Lord hath not sent me. But if the Lord make a new thing, and the earth open her mouth and swallow them up. See, this is a metaphorical, all right? This is a visualization. This isn't something that literal, they open it up and, they went to a pit of hell where they burn forever. It says, but if the Lord make a new thing, and the earth open her mouth and swallow them up. So, what about a literal mouth? Is it going to open up a mouth? Does the earth actually have a mouth? No, this is visual. This is a visual representation of people being put to death. It says, but it's the same thing with Isaiah 66 in verse 24, right? People think that's literal. It's not literal, all right? That's why you can't be a hard literalist, and you can't be a metaphoricist either. You have to be able to rightfully divide the truth, all right? You need to be able to see what it means. You need to have an understanding, all right? It says, but if the Lord make a new thing, and the earth open her mouth and swallow them up with all that appertaineth unto them, and they go down quick into the pit, the grave, then, well, actually, we're going to define what pit means. It says, then ye shall understand that these men have provoked the Lord. And it came to pass, as he had made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground clave asunder that was under them, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up and their houses, and all the men that appertained unto Korah, and all their goods, and they and all that appertained to them went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed up upon them, and they perished from among the congregation. Okay, and all Israel that were round about them fled at the cry of them, for they said, lest the earth swallow us up also. And there came out a fire from the Lord and consumed the 250 men that offered incense. So we can go to 35. That's where it's going to get. So let's go and get that. Now, let's see. It's probably going to mention hell. And again, because these are all Christians that translate these things. But let's see what we got here. Let's see. The earth split open beneath them. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them along with their households. The ground split under them split open. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them and their households. So let's go and look. What we're really looking for today in Numbers, we're looking for the word pit. 30. Okay, now it could be in the Blue Letter Bible as just, hell, because they will do that from time to time. Let's open this up. I'm going to keep that over there, but I'm going to go and type in Numbers 16 and 30, and we're going to see what it gets, right? It'll load. So here we go. And make a new thing. The earth open her mouth. What is this? Probably just going to deal with the word of just being mouth. So mouth. Okay, a mouth. A mouth opening an orifice, a well, a river, right? So and then we can swallow them up with all that appertaining to them. They go down quick into the pit. There it is. Under the pit. Pit. Sheol. Right? The grave. Alright? Alright? They were opened up and went down to their grave. Alright? Basically, what happened? The Lord killed them. Okay? The Lord put them to death. Okay? The Lord put them to death. They were put down into the grave, into the pit. Okay? And the Lord could have it even happen where the ground, opens up under them, and they basically get, sucked under and put to death if he wanted to. Alright? But this is talking about them being put to death. Okay? It's like, for example, I mention it, so let's get, trying to cost the, define hell, trying to, circle things off on my, little list I have here. So we got Old Testament Sheol. I can scratch this one out. Alright. That one's done. Boom, bam. Touch on that one. I'm gonna move. No, I'll use it. It's whatever. Kind of a light highlighter. Whatever. It'll do. Anyway, no, I'm gonna switch. Get a little bit better. That's a lot better. All right, I'll go with the bright ass pink one. So, continue on. So, Sheol, it literally just means the grave. Okay, the grave. If you look, everybody knows what a grave is. What is a grave? An excavation or a place in the ground. It's a pit, like an excavation, a hole in the ground, right? Where a deceased body is interred, typically located in a graveyard or a cemetery. All right, and those for sinners, the Lord can make that, that happen like an instant. All right, you're done. He can put your grave wherever. All right, he can have you drop right then and there, and you're dead, right? So, that's not talking about going to hell, okay? As in, well, they did go to hell, but they didn't go to the subterranean level of hell. So when it says, does it ever mention, subterranean, the pit? Well, the pit, again, the pit, some people might refer to as subterranean because it is under the earth. It's not under the earth, it's in the earth. When you die, technically that's semi-subterranean. But subterranean is talking about big caverns literally under the ground. When you die and you get buried, they're not sending you to an area of subterranean. No, subterranean is deep excavation, right? Like a quarry, right? That's a subterranean. Okay. When you're that's getting subterranean. All right, a small little pit dug for a grave isn't really. I mean, it could be defined as subterranean, but no, not really to the level of what these people are talking about. It says it is said that they go down alive in the pit. In the New Testament, the Greek equivalent is Hades. So, see, I showed you that. It says in Matthew 11 and 23, Yahushua tells the city of Capernaum it will go down to Hades. Okay, now again, I mentioned this yesterday as well. Tartarus, it's only mentioned in 2 Peter 2 and 4, and it's basically another Greek term. Okay, it's another Greek term. Lowest parts of the earth refer to Hamashiach descending into the lower earthly region, sometimes translated the lower parts of the earth, which many historic traditions connect to a subterranean holding place for the dead. Christian traditions, and that's what we're talking about today. As a matter of fact, let me go and get that one. Well, actually, we have doctrines them in. Basically the same thing. I think it mentions traditions in that one. So let's jump over there. It doesn't, but there's another one. All right, here's 2. This is Matthew 15 in verse 9. All right, this is a Christian fundamental right here. But in vain, now we talked about what vain means yesterday, right? Vain means useless, producing no effect, right? But in vain, they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. Okay, so these are things men told you to do. These are men, basically traditions, things that men held for years upon years upon years. All right, things that they say don't say bad words. Oh, don't do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this. Those are commandments, and really going back to those commandments are commandments of men from traditions. Now, going into Mark 7 and 8, this is again Yahushua speaking. It says, "For laying aside the commandment of Yahweh, ye hold the tradition of men." So you lay aside the actual commandments and the things of the Lord to hold on to traditions of men. It says, "As the washing of pots and cups and many other such like things ye do." Okay, and again, Christians like to take this, and they like to go and get the other one that I got, Matthew 15 and 9, and they like to take them out of context. Okay, specifically Mark 7 and 8, because in Mark 7, they actually like to get verse 11. All right, they like to use this one out of context. Not this is Matthew 15:11. "Not that which goeth into the mouth defileth a man, but that which cometh out of the mouth, this defileth a man." I believe this is mentioned in Mark 7 and 8 as well. So you can actually go. These scriptures are, pretty much verbatim. Matthew 15:11 and Mark 7. Mark 7 and 7. "Howbeit in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men." Matthew 15:11 says, "Now." Matthew 15 and 9. "But in vain do they worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men." Okay, see, pretty much on par. Okay, pretty much on par. And if you go and get these, right here, it talks about, and then where's the verse? Right here. They like to take these out of context. For example, the scribes and Pharisees, right? So, the Yahushua's disciples didn't, wash their hand before they, went to eat their bread, and they basically tried to, condemn them and say, "Oh, that's wicked." All right. Well, that's wicked. And basically, Yahushua said, "Look, this is a tradition that you have. This isn't anything that's necessarily like, oh, there's no scripture that says thou must wash your hands, and if you don't wash your hands, you're sinful, right? It's a sin, and then you're going to go to hell, right? Nowhere does it say that. Okay, should you wash your hands? Yeah, I mean, it was a custom. Okay, it's a custom to wash your hands. I mean, you probably should wash your hands, but you can't make it into a sin. Okay, you can't turn something like that. For example, not wiping your ass is pretty gross, but you can't say it's a sin, okay? But again, you should do it. Is it a sin? No. Is it a sin to not drink water? No, but you should drink water. See, again, you can't, start putting things that as doctrines, all right, of the Bible that aren't, right? Even if there's something that you should do, right? So, just to be clean, right? But anyway, going into, where were we? They take this, where was it? They take 11 out of context. All right, "Not that which goeth into the mouth defileth a man, but that which cometh out the mouth, this defileth a man." So they're basically talking about, look, if he has unclean hands, all right, because they weren't washed, all right, and he eats his bread, all right, that which, not that which goeth into the mouth defileth the man, but that which cometh out of the mouth, this defileth the man. And they take that and they say, "Oh, see, it's not what goes in the mouth defiles a man. You can eat pork, you can eat all sorts of abomination food because the law was done away with." That's not what it's talking about, okay? That's not what it's talking about. Well, it still says it's not what goes in the context, man. Context, all right? You need to look up context clues. A lot of you aren't very good with reading. Okay, you have a low level of reading comprehension. Okay, you're over here, still reading, first grade level books. All right, you got to get on a higher level, man. All right, and the only one that can put you on that higher level is Yahweh Shem Yahushai. And that's why you don't understand the Bible, man. This is why you have all this hell confusion. People talking about hell and the pit and all these different things. Well, we got Numbers 16 and 30. All right, they went down to the pit. Well, that means they went down to the grave. They were put to death. They died. That's what it means. They died. They went down to the pit. They died. That's what it is. Okay? They died. That's what hell is. When you go and look up hell. But when you look in the Bible and you look up hell, and then you go into the Google and you look up hell, two completely different things. Two completely different things, man. And then you see that AI is trying to they're trying to, back up Christianity, but really, see, it's all talking about, they're all Reddit sources, okay? If I was to go and take this and I was to get it in something like ChatGPT, all right, and even pull it out in a private window so it doesn't have any of my information in it, so it's non-biased, right, to show you 100% proof, it says, yes, but the answer depends. So does the Bible ever mention hell as a subterranean place? Yes, but the answer depends on what you mean by hell and which part of the Bible you're referring to. The Bible uses several different words that are often all translated as hell in English, but they don't all describe the same place. Okay, so let's go down. It says, does the Bible describe hell as subterranean? In terms of imagery, yes. They're depicted as being below, and people are said to go down to them. This reflects ancient cosmology in the world, in which the world of the dead lay beneath the earth. But if by hell you mean the place of final punishment after judgment, the picture is less clear. So which one are you talking about? Okay, Sheol and Hades, they say, well, no, it's not. They say, again, they throw in that subterranean. That's not what it means at all. Okay. See, it says the Bible emphasizes separation from Yahweh, punishment, fire, darkness, and destruction more than a physical location beneath the earth. It does not explicitly teach that the final hell is literally inside the planet. So they're contradicting themselves here, right? They're saying, yes, it is below the earth, but it also doesn't describe that it's literally in the earth. So what the fuck are you talking about? So that's why we have to ask it one more question. Is a grave classified as a subterranean place? Okay, there you go. Yes, in ordinary English, I guess it is. It says a grave is subterranean because it's a burial place dug below the surface of the ground. That said, a grave and the biblical underworld are not the same thing. The grave refers to the physical burial place of a body. This is literally underground, subterranean. Sheol or Hades, see, they're going off. Sheol literally means or pit. This is a point of ongoing discussion amongst translators and scholars. The short answer is no. Sheol does not literally mean grave or pit. It is closely associated with both. It says Sheol is a Hebrew word that refers to the realm of the dead or the place where the dead go. It is a unique term and is not etymologically the Hebrew word for grave. But the Bible has the word Sheol in Hebrew for people that died too, or were killed. So what's your point now? You're pointing to an important feature of the Bible. Everyone who dies is said to go to Sheol, whether righteous or wicked. That's true in many passages. So everybody goes to hell then. Even if you're righteous or wicked, you go to hell. So see how it's fucking jumping all over the goddamn place? It can't, it's... They've tightened up chat, man. They've tightened it up, all right, because they don't want this truth going out. Because again, the chat was really furthering and proving what we said were true. But now it's they added all these different guidelines to have it jump. So now it's arguing with me. It said no, it's talking about a literal place. Well, what about the times where it's talking about people that just die, go down to the grave, and that word Sheol? Well, you're right. It does. In the Bible, everyone's said to go to Sheol. So everyone's going to the place of the dead of hell. Then everyone's going to hell. So everyone goes to hell, right? So, anyway. It says, this is why many scholars describe Sheol as a common destination of the dead in much of the Old Testament rather than a place of punishment. Place of the dead is the grave. When people die, they go to the grave. That's it. This is a coherent interpretation and is one some readers and religious traditions hold. If you define the place of the dead as the grave, and then when the Bible says someone goes to Sheol, you would understand as meaning they die and they're buried, otherwise enter the state of death. On this reading, Sheol is not a conscious underworld, but simply a grave or death itself. There are biblical passages that fit this understanding. For example, Ecclesiastes 9 and 10 says there's no work, knowledge, or wisdom in Sheol, in hell, emphasizing the inactivity of the dead. So they're not going there and, they're working and slaving away and burning. So that gets rid of that ideology from Christians right then and there. Psalm 6 and 5 says, in hell who will give you praise, or the dead cannot give praise is another the scriptures. A dead person can't repent, right? It says this is often understood as describing the dead as inactive. However, other scholars argue that some passages portray Sheol as more than an individual grave. For example, Isaiah 14 poetically describes the dead in Sheol greeting the fallen king. All right, well, what exact scripture? Let's go and get it. It's probably more metaphorical. Let's get the King James Version. I'm trying to find it. I think I found it down there at the bottom, but let me see. Okay, which scriptures? Oh, it's doing that. So it says, those who see Sheol as an underworld generally understand these passages as reflecting ancient Hebrew poetic imagery about the realm of the dead. There you go. Those who see Sheol as simply the grave often interpret the same passages as figurative or poetic personification. Well, they're not. They don't understand it. All right, these are the same people that try to say that Eve ate a literal apple. Okay, these are the same. They don't understand anything. They don't understand anything. So Isaiah 14 and 9 through 11. Okay, well, right here. Through 12. I mean, okay. So it says, let's read it from the top because it's one of my favorite scriptures. Isaiah 14, talking about the heathens going to captivity. All right. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, Israel. And this is, after the judgment. All right. This is after Armageddon. All right. This is after Babylon's completely destroyed. Right. It says, is some people call, heaven. All right. This is when we've been delivered at this point. And the strangers, if you go and look at that word strangers in the Hebrew, it'll actually talk about sojourners in Israel. They're not of Israel. They're foreigners to Israel, which mean they're heathens. It says, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. So that's slaves, if you look up those terms. It says, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressor. And it shall come to pass that in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve, that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. So he's broken the staff of the wicked. Those that have done, wickedly, and the scepter of the rulers. All these, are rulers, which are primarily Edomites and heathens. All right. It says, he who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted and none hindereth. So, the Edomites primarily is who it's really talking about, because they're the primary ruler. The earth is given in the hand of the wicked, who's dealing with Esau, Edom. It says, and again, Christians interpret that as, just wicked people in general, which, yeah, I mean, there are wicked people, but the earth was specifically given into hand to the wicked, Esau, Edom. That's why you see him on the money. That's why you see him everywhere. He has all this dominion, all this control. All right, the European, they were the ones that had the most colonization. They have the most lands. They named everything after themselves. It's all in the scriptures, right? Again, we've talked about it time and time again. It's not the time in this mini series or series to talk about it, but there's lessons out there on my page and on the brothers' pages. You can go and look at, and we talk about it. Okay, it says the whole earth is at rest and is quiet, they break forth into singing. Okay, so that's showing you that without these wicked people in rulership, these Edomites, all right, that the earth is finally, restored to a good state. It says, yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee. So does that mean, this is right here in verse 8, you can already see it's dealing with metaphor. All right, let's go and look up what metaphorical is. Metaphor. Okay, metaphor. A figure of speech that directly compares two unrelated things by stating one thing is actually another. Or not necessarily metaphorical, but it's symbolic. Okay? Symbolic. It represents, expresses, or stands for something else, usually as an abstract idea. See, Christians like to use symbolism or symbolicness in scriptures that aren't symbolic, and then they try to use literary. I'd mentioned this yesterday. They try to take things that are literal in the Bible and make them non-literal, and take things that are non-literal and make them literal. All right, this is symbolic. Okay, there's a lot of symbolism. There's a lot of metaphors. There's a lot of allegory all throughout the Bible. Let's look at allegory. Okay, what is allegory? An allegory is a narrative artwork, a poem that uses symbolic characters and events to represent abstract truth. That's what they say, hidden meaning, or moral and political situations. Okay, so it's, these are symbolic. All right, you got to think about it. For verse 8, this is where we're going to start getting into some figurative. All right, what is figurative? Figurative. I spelt it all wrong, but it'll correct it. Figurative language or art that departs from literal or basic meaning to create a special effect, convey a deeper truth, or paint a vivid mental picture. So it's painting a picture, all right? It's figurative. It's not literal. But a lot of people like to be literalists when it comes to the Bible and take everything completely literal, and that's where Christians go off, man. They don't understand that some things are literal, some things are figurative, all right? Some things are used as imagery, okay, to show you, that the earth is healing, okay? For example, look, in verse 8, yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon saying, since thou art laid down, no feller has come up against us. So are you expected to say that a fucking tree was talking? Come on, man. Come on, you Christians, you fucking morons. You can't get it. You can't get it. It says right there in verse 8, you jump down to 9. In verse 8, it talks about literal trees talking. Okay, if you're taking it literally, you think these trees, man, it sure is nice out here. Ever since Esau's been taken down, they haven't chopped me down. Trees don't fucking talk, man. You morons, you dummies. It's figurative speaking. Okay, is it metaphor? Not metaphorical, but because we already got that, it's symbolic. Okay, what is it like? Here, let's look it up. We'll find the exact word. Like, if someone described an evil person, an evil forest cutting person being taken away, and the trees rejoicing and talking about how happy they are, but it's just showing that the earth is in rest. What is that? Let's see the specific language. What is it called? We'll see. Personification, anthropomorphism, okay, let me try this. Let me try this again because it caught on with the whole Bible. All right, we can't have that because it's gonna not Google News. It's gonna mess it up though, so we can't have that. Okay. If someone described an evil movie destroying person being taken away, and the movie's rejoicing and talking about how happy they are, but it's just showing you that the physical media is safe, what type of literary tool is that? Okay, personification, extended metaphor, allegory. So I guess it could be allegorical. So I mentioned these: metaphor, allegory, Difference between metaphor, extended metaphor, and allegory. Because I know what personification is. That's when you take a plant and you like be like, oh, you know, she's a girl and, you know, she's sweet and she likes this type of stuff. You know, that's, or you do that with like a personification, you know, like people name their bongs and shit. They're personifying something. They're giving something human. You know, people personify their dogs. They're a dog, but they say, oh yeah, you know, he does this. He has a little attitude, and you know, he has all the. What really is just a dog, and they can't have little attitudes and stuff like that. But they try to add overly human traits to them, right? So that's what personification is. But metaphor, extended metaphor, and allegory can be a little bit in similes, and these can be a little bit more confusing. So a metaphor, a brief comparison between two unrelated things without using like or as. Extended metaphor, a metaphor that stretches across long sections, a whole poem or entire scene. Allegory, a complete narrative where every character, place, and event represents a real-world issue or concept. So give me an example of both. So metaphor, an example, that film projector is a roaring dragon. Okay, there's a lot of metaphor within the Bible. All right. Here. Okay. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion. Is he actually a roaring lion? All right. Is the devil, is our adversary a lion that's walking around roaring? No. Okay, it's metaphorical. As a roaring lion walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Christians will understand that, but when it gets into deeper, extended metaphors, they can't get it. Okay, extended metaphor. That film projector is a roaring lion. It breathes blinding light onto the canvas screen. Its loud, mechanical growl fills the theater, and it fiercely guards the treasures of cinema inside its metal belly. Does it actually have a metal belly? All right. Is it actually growling? All right. Is it actually, you know, a roaring dragon? No. Okay. No. Allegory. Example, George Orwell's Animal Farm. On the surface, it's a simple story about farm animals rebelling against a farmer. In reality, it's a complete allegory for the events of the Russian Revolution, where every animal represents a specific historical figure or social class. And you need to understand this, all right? You need to have some literary skill, all right? You need to have some good a good vocabulary, all right? You need to understand language, all right, and linguistics to understand what the Bible's talking about, because these Christians will literally take everything exactly literal, and that's why they don't understand anything, man. They don't understand anything, okay? You mean to tell me these Christians literally think that these fir trees were rejoicing and hopping around and being happy that they haven't been cut down? No, they're not actually. It says, look, saying, since thou art laid down, no fellers come up against you. That's actually going to come out the mouths of all the trees in Lebanon? No, man. So that already stops it before we even get through 9 through 11, man. That already stops it. It says, hell from beneath is moved. The grave is beneath, right? If you really, it's subterranean, as AI said, but let's be honest, like, no one's really referring to the grave as subterranean. It is, because technically it's under the earth, but it's not deep under the earth. When I think of subterranean, okay, a matter of fact, if I look up subterranean, if I look up subterranean, it's not going to show me a little hole in the ground. It's going to show me something crazy and big. Look, a cave, all these caves. Look, this is what people think of when subterranean, right? It's all caverns and subterranean. They're not thinking of a little pit, right? So yeah, if you want to use that for subterranean, yeah, the Bible does describe it at the grave, all right? And the grave is a pit. So if you really want to say something that small is technically subterranean, then yeah, sure. But subterranean, usually we hear that when referring to cavernous systems. So I don't like to use that term because it can be confusing. So, verse 9, hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet at thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. All they shall speak and say it. So now you have dead people speaking. Again, metaphorical. This is metaphorical. Okay. Now, for example, here's Ecclesiasticus 17 and 27. All right. This is This is in the Apocrypha, all right, which I mentioned time and time again, that the Protestants got removed. It's been in the Bible for longer than it was out of the Bible, but a lot of people don't like it because it's not in the Bible anymore. If you get yourself a 1611, you get yourself an actual old Bible, yeah, it'll be in there, okay? But the new ones do have it removed because, the Protestants, they didn't like it because, a multitude of reasons. Look it up. Do your history. I can't possibly explain every single thing in one lesson. There's a lot, okay? So do your history. Ecclesiasticus 17 and 27, who shall praise the Most High in the grave instead of them that live and give thanks? You can't praise in the grave because you're dead, okay? Look, thanksgiving perisheth from the dead as from one that is not. The living and sound in heart shall praise the Lord. Why? Because you can't do anything if you're dead. You're dead, okay? You can't drive to the store if you're dead. You can't eat the food if you're dead because you're dead. You're dead, man. They can't do anything, all right? But here it's talking about dead speaking. Well, can't have that. All right, matter of fact, if we go, the AI cut itself because it says right, where was it? I see we've been going for an hour and 4 minutes. Let's go, and because I got to turn my music back on. Hold up. Let's wait, everybody. All right. All right. So, back at it. It cut itself because earlier it said that that you can't do anything in the grave. They say Sheol does not equal the grave. Sheol does not equal the pit. Yet, if we go and actually get the literal language, grave, hell, pit. So, chat's going off, man. Chat's going off. All right, they have it going off now. All right. I'm trying to find it. Let me see. Here it is. That's a coherent interpretation and one that readers, some readers and traditions hold. If you define the place of the dead as the grave, then the Bible says someone goes to Sheol, you would understand as meaning they die and they're buried. Okay? There's biblical passages that it says Sheol is not a conscious underworld, but the grave itself. There are biblical passages that fit this understanding. For example, Ecclesiastes 9 and 10 says there's no work, knowledge, or wisdom in Sheol, emphasizing the inactivity of the dead. Okay? Inactivity as of dead. In Sheol, who will give praise, right? Okay, if we get this in the KJV. Okay. For in death there, Psalm 6 and 5, for in death there is no remembrance of thee. In the grave, who shall give thee thanks? Why? Because you're dead. You can't do anything. Okay, but yet we're jumping over to Isaiah 14 and 10, and now dead people are talking. Well, is that a biblical contradiction? No, this is a metaphor. Okay, it says, all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. All right, because that's what happens to dead bodies. All right, they're covered in your body's dead, and they're covered in worms. It says, and then it goes on in verse 12, how art thou fallen, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nation? Okay, for thou, and Lucifer, again, is referring to Esau, Edom. Again, they don't understand that, these Christians. They think that's referring to Satan. It's not. Different people, all right? Different people. It says, for thou hast said in thy heart, I will ascend into heaven. So this is talking about Esau, trying to make themselves above God, right? Yahweh is his real name. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of Yahweh. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. You're going to be put to death, okay? You're going to be put to death. Okay? That's what's talking about. And you can continue to go on, you know, and it's, again, they don't understand what they're talking about. Now, sometimes, now let's go and see. There was a word grave. Okay. So Isaiah 14 and 11. Now let's go and see what that has to say. Okay. Because it might be a different word, because that's what chat was arguing with, that grave is a different word. Well, Sheol means grave as well. Let's see what word it gets for grave here. Oh! What's that? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave. Sheol. Grave is also used for hell. Okay? Underworld, grave, hell, pit. Pit, where you get bodied. Where your body goes. Hell, again, your death. Hell is death. Grave. Okay, underworld. Well, technically, if you're willing to get down to it, if you're not using the bugged out version of underworld, yeah, you are under the world. You're under the ground. You're underground. Okay, that's where your body goes when you die. Okay, so no, that's not referring to fucking subterranean. Here, let me just show you again. It's not referring to this shit. Okay, it's not referring to any of this. Okay. So, if you believe in that, I mean, you're fucking dumber than I thought you were. Okay? So, where else? So really, I can mark off defined hell. Okay? Because we did. Well, let's go and define hell. Now, if I go and look up hell, let's see what it actually says. Okay, let's go and see what it says. Hell is the abode of the dead. Where do the dead go? Really, the grave. It says of punishment in the afterlife, or a place, condition of extreme torment and suffering. And no. Okay, you're wrong. All right, you suffer, and then you go to hell. All right, you suffer during your death. Hell is the grave. Okay, you get put to hell. You go to hell. Okay, you know that's the grave. Going to hell is being put to death. Okay, you went to hell. Everybody goes to hell if they taste of death in this life. Okay, righteous and wicked go to hell. All right, everybody goes to the grave. Okay, they have that saying in the world. There's only two things promised in life: death and taxes. Okay, everybody dies. All right, unless you're holding on like we are, hoping to be part of the elect, and Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is coming back soon and getting us out, which he is. Right, and we're hoping to be part of that number that doesn't taste of death. But 200 years ago, you would have died, okay, and you would have been righteous. All right, if you were in, there wasn't really anybody in the understanding like that. But if you were part of the elect, all right, the Lord would have still, because you were part of the elect, the Lord would have, you're His special people, so you would have died not being viewed as wicked in His eyes. But you would have still died, all right? Because you can die righteously. I've mentioned that before. You can get cancer or, diabetes or a health condition or die like that. But dying violently, judgment, you know what judgment is, all right? Getting burned up alive in a fire and can't get your way out. Getting hacked up with a machete, that's judgment, okay? Shot to death and gang violence, that's judgment, man. That's judgment, okay? But again, these Christians don't know what they're talking about, man. And that was just for one. Okay, that was just for one. We just defined what Sheol is. We still have to get Hades, Gehenna, and Tartarus. Okay, now because Gehenna is referring to the Valley of Hinnom, all right, or Ben Hinnom as some call it, and that was just a place outside Jerusalem where they kept burning as a fire pit, all right, and sometimes it's usually translated as hell, all right, in the New Testament, but that's again not referring to hell. And then they use Hades. Hades is just the Greek equivalent word of Sheol. All right, we actually proved that earlier, but I'm going to get into that again. All right, even chat said that. They said it's just the Greek equivalent of the Hebrew word Sheol. Okay, that's the Greek word. That would be the equivalent. So that's why it's put in there, because they're not going to use the Hebrew word because they were writing it in Greek. Okay, so it's just complete just madness, man. Just madness. So what else? Where do we go back here? So what do we get? Sheol, already got it. All right, the hell, the pit. All right, the abyss, grave, the pit, grave, death. Right, and then we're gonna get into lake of fire later on, of course. So more, and then a lot of the second death. That's another one. People, the second death. Look, man, you don't have an understanding, and that's fine. But stop acting like you do. Okay. You can either sit down, shut up, and learn. All right, let's look at these other ones because I had these ones up still. Let's see if it also is Sheol. above the waters that may depart to hell. Sheol. John 2 and 2. Out of the belly of hell. Sheol. 2 Samuel 22. The sorrows of hell compassed me about. The snares of death prevented me. The sorrows of hell. Sheol. Okay? Hell in the Old Testament is always translated at, you can, look, is hell in the Old Testament always it always from the Hebrew word Sheol, and it should say yes. Almost always yes. Okay, is there almost always? Okay, 31 times as hell 31 times, grave 31 times, and pit 31 times. Modern translations such as the Jewish Tanakh or the NIV no longer translate Sheol as hell. All right, simply preferring instead the grave. There you go. So look, even the Jewish Tanakh and modern NIV that people like, it doesn't even say hell. It just says the grave. So there you go. So it's dealing with the grave. The grave, the grave, the grave, the grave, the grave. Not a place where you're going to burn for fucking altar. Ah! Ah! You know, begging to have some water put on you. No, man. No. Nope. Nope. And we still have to come back for more. Really, we could cut it right there. Right? But we still have more. What about Hades? It says in the New Testament Hades, or it says Gehenna, or it says Tartarus. All right? Or what about this, or what about that? Nope. Okay? Well, you still go look. We're going to describe it all in a compendium of Christian madness to the best of my ability, right? So, and you can burn forever. You can burn eternally. Eternally does not mean forever. That's, again, a modern misunderstanding, all right? Because in English, eternal means forever, all right? But, I mean, there's plenty of places that describe something as being eternal, but it didn't last for literal ever, all right? So where else? We can mark these off. Paradise Lost, John Milton depicts Satan ruling hell. Already talked about that. Let me just mark my sticky note off. Dante's Inferno, already talked about that. Okay, that's already done. Greek and Rome, Hades and Tartarus. We haven't talked about that yet. We talked about it a little bit, but not to its full extent, so we're not going to do that one. Let's see, Eternal is forever, Babylon be a big bit of death. Day 66-24, we haven't got that one yet. I mentioned it. What else? Yeah, that's what I got. So crossing a few things off the list, but I still got a lot to do. So we haven't even put a dent in this list yet. All right, as far as my sticky note. If you want to see what I got planned, I'll give you a little hint, man. I'll get a little. This is what we got planned. All right. Lots of different stuff on here. So, yep, lots of different stuff. Still got to get into that, but we've been going for over an hour and 16 minutes. You know what? Let's just go for a little bit more. All right, let's go for a little bit more. So we're gonna jump now. Okay, let's go get some new tests. Let's jump into Hades. Okay. Okay. Now this is all. New Testament. Now here we're gonna see quite a different view. We're gonna see Hades, Gehenna, and Tartarus. Okay, so let's grab a few and see what we got going on. Okay, let's see what we got going on. So let's grab Matthew 5. Look, thou fool shall be in danger of hellfire. Okay, let's get Matthew 5 and 22. That's the first time it occurred. Let's see what hell translates to then. Danger of the judgment and whatever they say. Brother shall be in danger of the council. Now foolish shall be in danger of the hellfire. Here it is. Gehenna. All right, Gehenna, but it's really Gehenna. Okay, now it's of Hebrew origin. All right, which is Gehinom. All right, Gehinom. All right, or Gehinom. All right, Gehenna, Gehinom, or Gehenna. All right, you can pronounce it a couple different ways. It actually means lamentation. Hinnom, lamentation, because there was a lot of wickedness that was going out there, right? So a valley, all right, steep gorge, and then henna, lamentation. So a valley of lamentation is really what that literally translates to. So, but you see fully here, Gehenna, and it is of Hebrew origin. It says, hell is the place of future punishment, called Gehenna or Gehenna or Gehenna of fire. This was originally the valley of Hinnom, south of Jerusalem, where the filth and dead animals of the cities were cast out and burned, a fit symbol of the wicked and their future destruction. It was also where, well, actually, let's go and show you. Let's get the Zondervan. I've done this before. I'm gonna let it populate. It's a big book. It's got 3,263 pages, so it's going to be a minute. Okay, right here. Gehenna. And there's actually a picture that should be somewhere. Here it is. Alright. Hinnom. Okay, but let's get Gehenna. Haiti. We got a lot of stuff. So, ooh, this might be coming a higher clutch than I thought. Okay, so we got a bunch here. Gehenna. Okay, G1147. Okay, so if we go and look, we have G1167. So let's look G1147. Now, that's in their version. All right, this goes back to dactylos, okay, which means finger, toe. But we're looking at, see, you can see it, Geena, Geena. At least in the Strongs, it's G1067. Okay, so it says Valley of Hinnom. It literally means Valley of Hinnom. That's what it means. Okay, from Hebrew, Ge or Gehinnom. All right, Valley of Hinnom. Aramaic. Gehinnom. All right. In Greek New Testament, this name refers to the final place of punishment of the ungodly and is usually translated as hell. Okay. So what does Gehenna mean? The place of final punishment. Okay. Or the place of future punishment. Okay. The place of future punishment. So that's what it means. The place of future punishment. Which really, if you really want to get into it in this society, it's Babylon. Okay. Babylon's going to be likened unto Gehenna, all right? Because it's just going to be a big fucking pit of fire and death, all right? And you know, the Edomites are going to have to spend this time cleaning up bodies because it's just going to be bodies everywhere. Bodies and death and it's going to be, and, it'll eventually, be, of course, the Lord's going to fix it. It'll be all fixed up and stuff like that, but we're not going to be dwelling here. It's just going to be animals, wild animals. That's mentioned in Revelation 18:2. So let's see. Where do I want to get here? I guess we'll continue reading. It says, usually translated as hell. You see it. The word derives from the Hebrew phrase of the valley of Ben Hinnom, identified with the Wadi Irabibi, just south and west of Jerusalem. See Hinnom Valley, of which we will. This ravine formed part of the border between the tribes of Judah and Benjamin. They give you scriptural reference. And it was still recognized as the border after the exile. Here, King Ahaz and Manasseh, all right, sacrificed their sons to Molech. Okay, why? Because there was fire. They kept a fire burning, all right, to get rid of trash and animals and children that they wanted to sacrifice. For this reason, Josiah defiled the place. After referring to these idolatrous practices, Jeremiah prophesied a great slaughter of the people there and of Jerusalem. After the Old Testament period, and mind you, we talked about this Old Testament period with what was I made it a while ago. It's called Ancient False Doctrine, right here. Ancient False Doctrine, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Book of Enoch, and the Book of Jubilees. Okay, bugged the fuck out, crazy shit. And these were written in the Old Testament period. All right, the late Old Testament period. Okay, or the late Old Testament. I'm retarded. Late New Testament. All right, or they say late Old Testament period. All right, after the Old Testament period, that would be the New Testament. Okay, and from the mid to late New Testament period. Okay, while you did have the Old Testament that was put in the Bible, there was a whole group of other people that were calling themselves Jews or Jewish that were bugged the fuck out, and that's where you got the calling themselves scholars. That's where you got the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, all this bugged out shit. That's where it came from. Those were from apocalyptic writers. They were crazy. They don't know what they were talking about. Okay? After the Old Testament period, Jewish apocalyptic writers began to call the Valley of Hinnom the entrance to hell, and later hell itself. Okay? So that came later. Okay, it came later. You can see right here, it says, in Jewish usage of the 1st century AD, Gehenna referred to the intermediate state of the godless dead. All right, that's that intermediate state. That's the fucking purgatory. That's bullshit. All right, but there's no trace of this sense in the New Testament. The New Testament distinguishes sharply between Hades, the intermediate bodiless state, which we're going to prove that that's not true, and Gehenna, the state of final punishment after the resurrection of the body. All right, again. You're not going to get the 100% truth out of this, but it gives you most of it. Now, hell. Okay, the English word, concealed place or underworld. In the Old Testament, render Hebrew Sheol. Okay, see Sheol. And the New Testament renders it as Hades. Okay, and Gehenna. All right, it says in the NIV and other modern versions use it almost exclusively for the last term, which refers to the Valley of Hinnom, Wadi Irabibi. We just got that, right? A location of notorious sacrificial offering by fire of children to the false god Molech. Okay, there you go. The apocalyptic book of 1st Enoch, there you go, the bugged out shit, states that there would be an abyss filled with fire south of Jerusalem, under which the ungodly Israelites would be thrown into. Later, the idea was extended that this place would be conceived as the scene of fire punishment for all of the ungodly. Later, when the place of punishment was conceived as under the earth, see how it kept on adapting and, growing? So the idea of fiery torment was maintained, and yada, yada, yada. In Greek mythology, Tartarus was the name of the deep abyss below Hades where the Titans were imprisoned. Well, that's only used once, again, in 2 Peter 2 and 4. And then finally, the Valley of Ben Hinnom. Now, you can go and look at, I'm going to keep it up on the screen, but it's pretty much already told us everything we need to know in Gehenna. All right? This is look, Yahushua used it referring to the final destination of the wicked, death, all right? Also, and probably the lake of fire burning with sulfur. Nope, that's something else, all right? That is specifically dealing with the nuclear destruction, and that's referred to as the second death, okay? The lake of fire is the second death, okay? So that's where people are getting it confused. It tells you directly in the scriptures, the second death is when, nuclear destruction comes upon Babylon, and also, the chariots coming back. That's the second death. Okay, this is what you guys got going on is something completely, Christians don't understand it, so they create these deep fucking amalgamations of bugged out doctrine, and it's crazy. Okay, it's absolutely fucking crazy. But we're probably going on for 30 to 40 minutes now, almost 30. We got a couple more minutes, but yeah, I mean it's simple. You can look those things up. So that's what Gehenna is talking about. Okay, that's what Gehenna is talking about. Again, it says this was originally the Valley of Hinnom. It just means the place of future punishment. The place of future punishment. That's what it means. Okay, so that was hell, Gehenna. All right. What else? We got Matthew 5 and 29. It talks about the whole body shall be cast into hell. All right, let's go see. Gehenna again. All right. Matthew 5 and 30. The whole body cast into hell. All right. It's probably going to also say it's the same word. Gehenna. All right. Let's jump from Matthew to something else. Luke 10 and 15. Okay. And now Compendium, which are exalted to heaven, shall be thrust down into hell. Okay. Nope. There we go. Hades. We got a different one. Okay. Hades. Okay, name Hades or Pluto, the god of the lower regions. Well, that's not in the Bible. That's bugged out, false doctrine. Okay, that's heathen custom, so that's not what it's talking about. Orcus, the netherworld, the realm of the dead. Nope, that's also, again, Orcus is a false god, man. All right, again, Orcus, the god of the underworld. Roman mythology, that's not biblical. Okay, later use of the word grave, death, hell. There you go, the grave, death, hell. Again, Hades is the direct Greek equivalent of Sheol. Okay, it's the direct equivalent. The grave, death, and hell. The grave, death, and hell. If you go and look up Hades, it's going to say the grave, hell, or the pit. Okay, now here they actually have death, which is good because it also refers to death, just as Sheol does. Death, hell, the grave, or if you're in the grave, you died. All right, that's a death. Okay, so boom, bam, got that one. Knocked that one off the list. Do we have anything else referring to Hades here? Yep, I have one on the bottom. We can mark that one off. Boom. So there's another word that gets used. All right. So prove what that one is. So that was in Mark. Or Luke, excuse me. The other one was in Matthew. We didn't get Mark here. Let's go. Let's see what it says. Then having 2 feet cast into hell. Of course, I'm not going to read all the scriptures because I'm speed reading them to just show you. We're just getting the word hell. All right. Having 2 feet cast into hell. Gehenna. All right. Gehenna, however you want to pronounce it. What about Acts 2:27? Because thou will not leave my soul in hell. Okay. What is this talking about? Okay. Well, it's going to be either. It can only be 2 things. It's either going to be Gehenna or it's going to be Hades. Okay. Because Tartarus only shows up once in 2 Peter 2 and 4. So let's see. My soul in hell. Hades. Okay, so it's going to be Hades. And you can go and do your work. You can go and look through any one of these, man. You can go and grab here Revelation 10 and 13, Revelation 20 and 14. All right, you can go and look. It's either going to be Gehenna or Hades. Okay, death and hell. Hades. Okay, Revelation 20 and 14. And death and hell were cast in the lake of fire. This is the second death. So hell is what? Hades. There you go. And look right there. And death and hell were cast in the lake of fire. This is the second death. It shows you right there. Okay. The lake of fire. All right. The lake of fire. Second death. If you go and look up second death, I think there's only just this time second death. Right here. No, this is the scripture I was looking for. Revelation 21 and 8. This fully shows you what the second death is. But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. So that's the second death. All right, the lake of fire, of course, is referring to as I have it up here. I wrote it down there. So we already got Sheol. Okay, we already got Hades, we already got Gehenna. The lake of fire, that's nuclear missile destruction upon Babylon. All right, that's what it's talking about. So Hades, the great Sheol, Old Testament. The grave, hell, pit. Hades, the equivalent of Sheol, also means death. Gehenna, the place of future punishment, also the valley of Hinnom. All right, other people use outer darkness. That's not hell. That's referring to lack of biblical knowledge and understanding. You're out there in outer darkness. You don't know. You're stumbling around, fucking blind as shit. The abyss, that's the grave. All right, an abyss is just a pit. Okay, a dark pit. All right, that's the grave. The pit, that's a grave. Okay, unquenchable fire, that's metaphorical for long-lasting fire. We're going to talk about that. Weeping and gnashing of teeth, that's in hell. No, that's fear and suffering that happens before judgment. Weeping and gnashing of teeth because you're dying, your judgment, and the judgment is coming upon you. The second death, that again, the lake of fire and chariots returning. So, again, you haven't been right on one thing, Christians. You haven't been right on one thing, man. So let's see, what else do we want to get? I think we'll leave it there because we should be well into the 30-40 minute mark now. Yeah, so a minute and 30. So that's where we're gonna leave it. All right, that's if you break that down into two, that is two 40-minute lessons. Okay, that's two 40-minute lessons. I specifically wanted to go twice today. I know I did twice because I do my 2 lessons, but sometimes in lieu of doing 2 lessons, I'll do one really long lesson. All right, an hour and 30, hour and 40 minutes, because most of my lessons, if you look at my channel, they've been getting longer, but 47, 50, 30, 20, sometimes I'll do like a 50 and then I'll do a 10, but, or a 40 or whatnot, so, sometimes, 2 40s, but if you do the math, all right, an hour and 30, hour and 40, that's like, 2 30s, 2 40s right there, all right, so, 2 30s is an hour, okay? 2 40s is an hour and 20 minutes, I believe. So if you type in, so an hour and 30 would be 60, 70, 80, 90. That would be 90 minutes divided by 2. That's 2 45-minute lessons. So sometimes I do that as well. But I wanted to get a really long one done today because I got to run some places tomorrow, which tomorrow would be the day I would usually do 2. Plus, I'm trying to get my schedule back on track with it because right now I have it hitting on, Tuesdays, usually when I go out and do stuff, and I have that the day I'm out and I have to do 2 lessons, and I don't want to be doing, so many in-transit lessons because I like to, they can't be as deep as being behind the computer. right? I can go on, I can look up things, I can search things, got my dictionaries, got all this. You can't really do that on the go. It becomes very cumbersome. So, call all Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. We have the ability to do it like this. And hey, may Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai have the apostolical bars computer come back soon, because I know he mentioned issues. He wanted to do them on the computer, but he's had to do them on the phone because it's giving him issues. So may Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai help him out with that, and that computer stop giving him those issues, Lord willing. But yeah, so that's where we're gonna cut it today. We still got a lot, all right? So don't get discouraged. You're like, I want to hear more. Well, there's plenty more. I might be able to finish it up next lesson. We'll see. And then after that, I don't know what we're gonna go into. I'll just have to see. Maybe a little bit about Adam and Eve and the apple, right? Everybody likes to talk about the apple. There was no apple. Maybe we'll talk about how rapture is not a thing. Maybe we'll just, that's in the spirit of a compendium of Christian madness, right? Part 1 was the falsity that is Jesus Christ. I don't know what I'm going to call this one. This is something about the true meanings of hell or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out through your spirit power. Be Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. But that's where we're going to close it for now, so I can get out of these. For now, right? And do I want to leave anything up? I'll leave the Blue Letter Bible up. All right, I'll leave it up. So that's where we're gonna close out. Where do we want to go? And I have still yet to get to. You know what? What do we want to do? Still yet to get to this video. So let's see. We'll get it tomorrow. Lord willing, I'm alive and well. We'll get it tomorrow. Because we still have Tartarus to touch on, and it'll be a good little segment to have. So we'll do it then. I don't know why this isn't liked, but we're gonna do it then, Lord willing. We're alive and well to do so. But that's where we're gonna close it. We're gonna cut it there. Oh, let me mark off the DLS 06/29/2026 at 37-minute mark, because we got the Apostles lesson yesterday. Okay, so we got that part. So yeah, man. So we're slowly checking the list off. So that's where I'm gonna close out. Lord, what was edifying. Again, I'm gonna give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh, Shem Yahweh Shai, Shem Badash. Shalom to you brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring, keep the faith. We're almost out of here. We're almost out of this madness. Till next one, Lord willing. Shalom.